Hi, my name is Bianca, and I'm currently on the board at the Peace and Justice Center. I had the opportunity and privilege to visit Montgomery, Alabama with a group of 14 other Vermonters. The experience was really transformative and also really hard. We went to a variety of museums. To name a few, we went to the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, the Legacy Museum, the Freedom Riders Museum, and we also visited a church that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a pastor at in the 50s and 60s. While we were there, I was connecting a lot of what we were experiencing and seeing to things that are really prevalent for Black and Brown people today in 2019, with police brutality, mass incarceration, as well as just like the daily violence that is inflicted on people of color. I'm walking away from this experience with a renewed sense of urgency, as well as a desire for peace to be what guides my racial justice work. Thank you.
I'm Shelley Vermilia, and I'd like to tell you a little bit about my experience in the Montgomery trip. I wrote a blog piece, which is also available on the Peace and Justice website, but this is a little snippet to give you a flavor of the impact of this trip. So I'm going to read that to you. People from my family, my father, his siblings, his parents and grandparents, born into the South, believed everyone liked it just the way it was. Don't rock the boat. Don't make change. People know their place. Philosopher Elizabeth Minnick has written about the evil of banality. People do their job. They want to be the best at it. Go along. They don't necessarily question why or what they are doing. They don't think about it. And racist, white supremacist core values were seen as polite, civil, just the way things are. I am abashed by the hate. Those capturing, shipping, whipping, and selling people, taking a mother from her small children, collusion everywhere, from the slavers to the sellers and wearers of the cotton fabrics. The boat builders in the north, the rope makers, the blacksmiths making manacles and chains, those cheering and having a picnic at a lynching. Everyone, north and south, was part of the enslaving systems. Everyone was terrorized.
Hello, my name is Zamora, and I traveled with the Peace and Justice Center down to Montgomery, Alabama to visit the Equal Justice Initiative and Bryan Stevenson's Legacy Museum and the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, which is informally known as the National Lynching Memorial. And this trip, this experience as a whole was very meaningful, and I learned a lot, and I think a lot of it was information that I may have previously known or knew aspects about. However, this trip allowed me to process and internalize the information in a different way and in a deeper way. And I think what made this trip so meaningful was, well, to start off, I am a descendant of chattel slavery, meaning that my ancestors were enslaved in the United States. I'm African American. And despite the fact that I know logically that my ancestors really built this country, I don't feel like I can walk around the country necessarily, or everywhere in the country, and really feel that and sense that, because there's not really memorials and museums like the ones that we visited that help us revisit that history and remind us of where this all came from. And doesn't really pay homage to the contributions of Black folks in this country. And so going there, I really felt like I could, for the first time in my life, actually connect with my ancestors and feel them, like literally feel their presence and feel that pain. Because we were walking, we literally were visiting sites where my ancestors were previously warehoused and enslaved and auctioned off. And it was really interesting to feel that energy and to be so close to it, you know? And yeah, the National Lynching Memorial, that was a very painful experience. I mean, the whole thing was very painful and emotional, but walking through that, and it listed over 4,000 names of people who had been victims of racial terrorism and were lynched throughout the South. And those are only the ones that are documented. And it's not even including the entire country. I realized as I was desperately trying to read and remember the names that I had read, that I couldn't, that it wasn't possible, that there was too many, and there was too many stories to remember. And not even just that, like, I'm reading their name, but their name doesn't tell me who they were, who their family was, what their everyday life was like, what their dreams, aspirations, suffering was, like, who they were. And so they're listed, but they're really just counted as a statistic, as a place marker of another person who was a victim of this such terrorism. And that was really difficult for me to come to that realization, and just realize the vastness of it all, and how many of us, really came to face to face with absolute horror.
I cannot come away from these experiences without an urgency, an imperative, to imagine a truly equitable society and to join in building the community required to work together to achieve it. Bryan Stevenson, founder of the Equal Justice Initiative, the Memorial and Museum, wrote in his book Just Mercy that as a criminal defense lawyer he tells each of his clients, each of us is worth more than the worst thing we have ever done. I hope collectively we are worth more than the worst thing we have done. I hope collectively we are worth recovering, reconciling, and repairing.
And the Legacy Museum was really helpful because it organized this history in such a way that made it very easy to understand, and to also draw the connection between chattel slavery and mass incarceration. And even though it was painful, and I was feeling the pain of my ancestors, and even the pain of my people right now, it made me feel so incredibly proud to be a descendant of chattel slavery, something that was so horrible. Because despite everything, like I said earlier, we built this nation, and we continue to contribute to this nation in ways that I guess people couldn't even begin to imagine, coming from something so horrible and evil. And just look at what we've been able to accomplish in the face of evil, And yeah, I just think that it helped reassure me in why I do this work and why it's important, because we still have so much to do.
Or just with a friend. So I'd say going as a group with the intent of using the information to mobilize and strategically try to address racism with like the information and the motivation that we gained from being there. And that all sounds like kind of heady and intellectual, and it wasn't when I was there. It was very, very emotional and raw. And I think that was why the memorial itself was by far the most critical element of the trip for me, the most important piece. It just left me completely raw.
I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and so identifying as a Black woman from the South, for me it was really powerful to kind of see in such a raw form the history of my people, which on one hand is really painful and hits very deep, and generational trauma is real, but on the other hand, to see the strength and to see the resilience of my people, and to be in a multicultural group where that was recognized and felt by all people of different backgrounds and perspectives. And for some of the people that we even met in Montgomery, we met people from all over the world who were coming to understand what the legacy of slavery means to this country, but also what the legacy of the civil rights movement and what Dr. King means. And so for me, it made me feel a lot of pride and a lot of love for what I come from and from who